Beyond the Clef is presented by Director's Choice.
Welcome to Beyond the Clef, live at TMEA 2018, and I am so proud to say that I'm sitting here with the 2018 Texas Bandmaster of the Year, Kenneth Capshaw. What an honor.
Thank you so much.
It must have been a pretty great experience to be able to get that award.
Incredibly humbling experience.
I bet.
And I'm just thrilled and honored,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you've had a whirlwind of a 24-hour period here. And just standing here a few moments with you, you're the celebrity now, and everybody's coming over and saying hi, hugging you. So that's pretty awesome.
It's just really great. We had a great day yesterday. I teach at UTEP, and the UTEP Wind Ensemble played a concert yesterday, and they had a fabulous concert. So we've been enjoying that with those kids here. And our former director of bands, Ron Huffstetter, was elected into the Texas Hall of Fame and announced last night. So it was a great day for all of us.
A banner day for UTEP. Yes, and of course you're the assistant director of bands at University of Texas El Paso.
Yes.
I forgot to mention that. So in your time with UTEP, and then just working with directors, and you've worked with some of my stuff before, and you're a mentor to a lot of teachers. So we were talking before about one thing that you feel is lacking in our profession just a little bit is ethics. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily the teacher's ethics, as I think we're not teaching young kids ethics.
Okay.
And I think we need to find ways in this day and age to integrate this kind of teaching into our music on a daily basis. Well, the kids now, with the social media and their laptops and everything is so fast for them, they're not getting good habits about how to do things on a daily basis, like maybe opening the door for somebody, saying thank you, showing appreciation for what they have. And I think so many times I see with young teachers that they never say anything about it. And I think we can help these young people develop good habits by doing the things that we can do in our rehearsals every day. We live with those kids, and in many cases have more influence on them than their parents do. So I hear this comment from people all the time, well, they're not getting this at home, they're not getting that at home. And as music educators, we probably spend more time with them than their parents do. So I think it's kind of incumbent on us to do that and help them. And there's a lot of little things, picking the band room up, opening a door, picking up trash off the floor, showing respect to each other at all times. And it's a daily thing that I think we have to stay after, and hopefully
it has to be a daily
has
thing.
An impact. Yeah.
So, young teacher, how do they try to start to do this and try to start incorporating this into what they're doing? So they're daily trying to get kids to do this, but it seems overwhelming. You know what I mean? For a lot of us, it happens to me all the time. It's always overwhelming to get that expectation level where it is.
Well, I think for a band director, orchestra director, right from the beginning, if we can instill the pride in what they're getting to do to begin with, the privilege it is to be able to play, instill that pride in the facility right away. I see great teachers that they have the kids lined up and everything in place, and they're talking to the kids about how we've got to keep this area clean and neat, and you pick up after yourself. I see that as a positive factor in a lot of teachers, but I see it not happening a lot of times. So to me, right from the beginning, if those kids understand the privilege that they have, and that's just a little habit that starts every day. Put your music stand away. This goes here, this goes here. Well, that's a habit. And for a 5th or 6th grade beginning student, this is where your instrument goes. This is how we're going to put it in there, and develop those habits in them, because I have several kids and have that, and I know they don't pick up their rooms, and they don't do that stuff at home.
Of course.
So we need to help them along with that. And I think that, and then convincing them to help other students. Maybe some kids are having a little bit of trouble with embouchure, counting something, and get that teamwork thing worked into the beginning classes, and that it carries over as they grow, I think.
I like what you said, teamwork. In the beginning classes. That's really good
right from the beginning. Build that foundation.
So you mentor a lot of teachers and get to see a lot of different levels. What's something advice you can give to the current?
Well, I think for the young teachers, it's really important to get a mentor, and I think being an older mentor, people my age, we've seen it all, and there's been such a change in everything over the years that some of those old ideas that we grew up with still work, and they need to reach out and find somebody. At Phi Beta Mu has a mentorship program that they can get online and get clinics and mentorship, and they're working on some things where they'll have some chat sessions just for small questions. And but a lot of these young teachers don't reach out. They're embarrassed. They think that they're not doing a good job, and they're afraid to ask. And we all had to ask. We all had experiences as we were. I remember my first year of teaching, I didn't ask, and it came back at me at the end of the year.
Who were some of your mentors?
Well, I taught band camp at WT with Gary Garner and Don Baird and that whole group, and then.
I'll have to tell you beforehand. I asked him to try to get some stories here, but he said he's got to save it all for TVA.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Some of the little things like picking music. When you're coming out of college, a lot of these kids have no idea about looking at the score, and they overprogram. Pick music that's out of the ranges, and when you get an experienced mentor to sit down and talk to, well, let's look at this score and tell me what your trumpets are like. I mean, and how many do you have? What's the instrumentation? Before you dive into picking a piece of music, it's going to be too hard, and then you can't get out of it towards UIL. So things like that, I think.
Yeah, sure. So you're working with some of the kids at UTEP and getting to work with the college kids. I'll call them the pre-teachers, right?
Yeah.
Right. What is that like?
It's great. The kids, we have just a wonderful staff at UTEP. Brad Ginevro is our director of bands, fabulous educator. We've got Lowell Graham there, who's my hero, and our doors are always open to the kids. So they'll come in and knock on the doors. Hey, let me ask you, I saw this. I'm student teaching or observing, and I saw something. Can you tell me about it? And all three of us are constantly talking to these students, and I think that's a big help. And we tell them, keep asking questions. That's what you need to be doing.
Okay, so you go into a band program, and let's say you're coming into my program. What are some of the things that you would want our viewers to know about? They have their mentor coming in, and this is what their mindset should be, accepting of the criticism, accepting of the help. Tell us a little bit about that from your perspective as a mentor.
Well, I talk to them about you might not hear what you want to hear all the time. So you have to take that. And of course, somebody may tell you something that's inaccurate, and you have to weigh it all out. But keep your mind open and take the information, and go to work on that. As a mentor, of course, in El Paso, I know the programs, and I know the demographics and economic situations, and where they are enrollment-wise. So that has a lot to do with what they're able to do. But sometimes we have to tell them, you don't have the instrumentation to play that piece.
Right.
And, don't play a piece like that when you don't have an oboe solo. Little things like that. But I think we know the programs very well, and that's important for a mentor to.
Right. I always try to tell, this is very hard for me to do, but I always try to tell the teachers that I work with when someone comes in, it's not all about trying to tell them the excuses and trying to tell them. You'll go in, and I'm sure you go into programs all the time and say, well, your trumpets are here, and they say, well, but that was a thing, and that well, if that was the one moment you're being judged for a contest or a performance, it's happening.
Yeah, I tell them it is what it is.
Yeah.
So go for it. But you don't make excuses for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what I talked to Stacy Dunn earlier, and he said, "Results, not excuses." Is
Right.
his,
Exactly.
Is his thing. I really like that mantra. So,
Well, and here we are again back to those beginning kids. If you establish those habits of work ethic, even with a sixth grader, I've had teachers tell me, well, sixth grade band should be fun. Well, I understand that, but it should also be good.
right.
And
There's an expectation level there.
yeah, so
Great. Oh, yeah.
add about administration.
Yeah.
Like say, you're going to have some administration that you get along with and that are supportive, and you're going to have some that don't. And you have to be a salesman and an advocate for your program. I see that a lot. They sit back and say, well, I'm not going to get support for this. I'm not going to. And it has to be done in a positive way. You never know where that principal or assistant principal is going to be in your career. Might be your superintendent 10 years from now. And I've seen that a lot with young teachers. They'll get in trouble and say something, and then later on that it's a new boss. So
I have that problem too right now. I think sometimes I do that
Yeah.
a little bit. Luckily, I am very fortunate to have great support all the way up. But
right.
you never know when someone comes in and has a different idea about how things work.
Yeah, and if they tell you to do that, then that's what you do. That's
Yeah. In the end, they're the boss.
yeah, they're the boss.
And hopefully you get to start a working relationship. Tell me a little bit about how you would think a younger teacher especially can help start a good relationship with those administration support staff.
Two things. My first thing at the beginning of your school year was to get with the custodian, and I would sneak a beverage in in the good old days, for the staff.
Yeah.
And it would be during the summer when nobody's there, and I'd just stick it in there, and he'd walk by. Because you need those people, and they need to be treated with respect. And I've talked to kids a lot we talked about the facilities a little bit. Do you want to be the person that has to clean that bathroom that you all...
I always try to tell my kids that those staff in particular, they're not there to pick up after you and clean up your trash. They're there to make this a safe, healthy environment.
Exactly.
It's your job to pick up the trash.
Right. Yeah.
That's part of that expectations and trying to maintain that pride in what you do and where you are.
And the next thing I would say was that meet the counselors and really maybe try to sit down with them. I know I was guilty of this. Band directors are guilty of this. They hibernate in the band room because they're working all the time. Well, you got to go in the teacher's lounge, go in the counseling center and sit down and meet these people and talk to them, and so that when you have a problem, they're receptive to you.
Yeah. I always try, in our office, it's a little U shape, and I can go to the front office, but I always try to go by and see all the secretaries, say hello, ask them how things are going, and then you get to meet their life. And it's not in an ingenuine way. You really, it's not to say that someone has to go in and try to be fake just to get in the good side of these people. You have to care about these people. That's just a life thing, though. You just have to care about other people, and then they'll care about you, and then they'll want to help you out. Yeah. So, and then it comes down to you help them out too.
I do have a funny story at Coronado when I was teaching at Coronado High School. One of the secretaries was named Carolyn, and I called her my guardian angel because we were friends, and she looked out, and if there was something that I missed or she would call and say, "Don't forget, you need to do this," or "You didn't turn this form in." So she's my guardian angel, and it always got done, and she kept me out of trouble.
Very nice. We were talking about ethics as far as the students go and what the students need. Can you comment on ethics about teachers and where we need to be? I know I just kind of mentioned, how their frame of mind, they have to care about people and they have to go out there. But talk a little bit about ethics for teachers nowadays.
Well, we have to follow the rules, which in many cases, we've got that 8-hour rule, and a lot of people work around it. And to me, it's, what are we telling the kids? We're working around that. Well, but that's not that kind of thing. I think the professional ethics between teachers. You know, you may not like somebody or may not like the work they do, but we're all professionals, and you just don't say anything if you can't say something nice. It's kind of what we try to do, and keep everything in professional.
Great. Well, it's been an honor to have you here today, especially after what a special day you had yesterday.
Well, it's been an honor to be here.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
And I hope we get to have you on the program again very soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Kenneth Capshaw, 2018 Texas Bandmaster of the Year, and thanks for joining us on Beyond the Clef.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Clef. For more great content, subscribe on our website at beyondtheclef.com. And be sure to follow us on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and Facebook.